Today, we're having the ultimate tournament of power in all of anime history. We're taking the strongest character from each anime verse, like Luffy from One Piece, Goku from Dragon Ball, and so on. In total, 32 characters are entering the prelims, and out of those 32, only one will rise as the true champion of this tournament. But before we begin, drop your predictions below. Who do you think is taking the crown? For starters, we have Jinwoo versus Kaiju number 8. Now, truth be told, Sung Jinwoo completely outclasses Kafka in scale, speed, and supernatural versatility. While Kafka is an absolute powerhouse in his own verse, with a fortitude of 9.8 and the ability to cause city block level destruction, Jinwoo, by the end of the series, is operating on a universal level. As the Shadow Monarch, an immortal being who has transcended death, he has infinite mana and commands an army of over 10 million regenerating shadow soldiers. For example, his Shadow Dragon Kamish alone could incinerate entire cities. So with that, Jinwoo wins and moves on to the second round. Next, we have Johan versus Light Yagami. Well, this is a battle of true masterminds. If Light somehow manages to get Johan's real name, he could easily kill him by writing it in the Death Note. But hold on, my friends, that might not work. You see, Death Note requires two things: the victim's true name and face. Johan's greatest defense is his anonymity. He's practically a ghost within the system. Throughout Monster, he uses multiple aliases and leaves no trace behind, to the point where even detectives struggle to confirm he exists at all. On top of that, Johan's true name is a major philosophical mystery. He is literally the nameless monster. Without a confirmed identity, the Death Note becomes useless, leaving Light powerless. And intellectually, Johan operates on a far more terrifying level of psychological manipulation than Light Yagami ever did. So with all that considered, Johan moves on to the second round. Next up, Ichigo versus Naruto. In his strongest forms, Naruto is a planetary level threat, but Ichigo, by the 1,000-year Blood War arc, is fighting Yowatch, a being capable of destroying and merging 3 entire universes: the world of the living, Soul Society, and Hueco Mundo. That places Ichigo's attack potency firmly at a universal level. In contrast, Naruto's strongest form, Baryon mode, scales at best to star or solar system levels. And let's not forget Ichigo's overwhelming spiritual pressure, which Naruto has no resistance against. It would slow him down drastically. So with all that said, Ichigo moves on to the second round. Next up, Gojo versus Makima. Makima's power allows her to control anyone she perceives as inferior to herself, but Gojo's abilities fundamentally counter her win conditions, while also bypassing her defenses. First, Gojo's infinity makes him completely untouchable. It creates an infinite distance between him and any attack, meaning Makima's physical strikes and even her invisible bang attack can't reach him because they still have to travel through space. Second, Makima's control ability only works if she genuinely believes she is superior to her target. Gojo's status as the Honored One and his overwhelming power would prevent her from viewing him as inferior, nullifying her mind control from the start. Third, Gojo can simply use Hollow Purple, an attack that erases matter itself from existence. This would completely bypass Makima's regeneration. That means Gojo wins and moves on to the second round. Now we have Asta versus Demon King Tanjiro. Well, if these two were to fight, there's no realistic way Asta would lose. Don't get me wrong, Demon King Tanjiro is the strongest entity in the Demon Slayer universe, with instant regeneration and immunity to sunlight. But Asta operates on a completely different level of speed and destructive power that physically eclipses the entire Demon Slayer verse. Asta's Zeton and Devil Union forms allow him to cleave through enemies with continental level durability, while Tanjiro's durability tops out at city block to town level at best. Not only that, Asta had fought high-ranking devils with far superior regeneration and immortality compared to anything in Demon Slayer, and Asta's Demon Destroyer sword can negate the cause and effect of spells and curses, meaning it would completely nullify Tanjiro's demonic biology altogether. So yeah, Tanjiro has no chance here. Asta wins and moves on to the second round. Next up, Shinra versus Rimuru. Okay, so to make this fight fair, we're taking Shinra in his Shinra Banshoman form. In this state, Shinra Banshoman is literally the god of his universe. He has feats like stopping time, resurrecting all of humanity, and rewriting the laws of physics to create an entirely new world. However, Rimuru is playing in a completely different league. By the end of the series, Rimuru was creating entire worlds tens of thousands of times over. Shinra's greatest accomplishment was recreating Earth and altering the laws of a single universe. But Rimuru's power comes from controlling the primordial energy of chaos, the very force that created the entire multiverse. Shinra's reality warping stems from Adola, a plane built on human collective consciousness. Rimuru, meanwhile, exists outside time, space, and physical laws altogether. Shinra can't simply wish him out of existence, while Rimuru can literally consume the concept of Shinra being a god, meaning Rimuru moves on to the next round. Now, if you are enjoying this video so far, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let's keep going. Next up, we have Eren versus Lelouch. Lelouch V. Britannia is a master tactician who wields the Gias, a supernatural ability that forces absolute obedience from anyone who makes direct eye contact with him. This means Lelouch could win if he somehow managed to lock eyes with Eren, but can he actually do that? Well, technically no. In his Titan form, Eren's human body is buried deep inside the Titan's nape, making it physically impossible for Lelouch to establish the direct line of sight needed to activate his Gias. On top of that, Lelouch has nowhere near the physical strength required to fight a Titan in the first place. So Eren wins this one and moves on to the next round. Now we have Anos versus Sid Kageno. Operating as Shadow, Sid is a master of combat who can force his own fantasies onto reality. His signature technique, I Am Atomic, is a nuclear-level magical explosion capable of vaporizing cities and even clearing weather patterns on a planetary scale. But in front of Anos, this means absolutely nothing. Anos is immune to the very fabric of Sid's attacks. His magic eyes of destruction can erase magic just by looking at it, meaning he could dismantle I Am Atomic before it even detonates. And even if Sid somehow managed to land a direct attack, Anos is immortal. He has regeneration even after his soul was destroyed. Then there's his sword, Venos Donoa, which destroys the laws of reality themselves. It can erase things that are infinite, eternal, or already dead. While Sid can vaporize matter, Anos can destroy the concept of Sid's existence entirely, bypassing any durability or regeneration he has. So with that said, Anos moves on to the next round. Next, we have Guts versus Dio Brando. Now, Guts possesses immense strength, superior combat experience, and the Dragon Slayer sword, which can harm supernatural or spiritual entities. But the deciding factor here is Dio's stand, the world. With that, Dio can stop time for up to 9 seconds. During this frozen time, Guts is completely defenseless. Now, don't get me wrong, I know Guts has reacted to supersonic attacks, but the thing is, he cannot react to an attack that happens in 0 time. Dio can simply press the pause button, deliver a fatal blow, and then resume the time, making it an easy win for him. Dio moves on to the second round as well. Now it's time for Saitama versus Mash. Okay, for those who don't know Mash, he's basically like Asta, in a magical world with 0 magic, but with Saitama-level physical strength. He can defy anything using muscles alone and can move at speeds that completely transcend the flow of time. But to be honest, I still lean more towards Saitama. You see, during his fight with Cosmic Garo, Saitama sneezed and accidentally blew away the gas giant Jupiter, exposing its core. On top of that, Saitama's power grows exponentially. As shown by his graph in the manga, his strength skyrockets automatically whenever he faces a real challenge. Even if Mash matched Saitama's power at the start, Saitama would eventually outscale him. So overall, I believe Saitama wins and moves on to the next round. Next up, Mob versus Freyrin. While Freyrin is a legendary mage with over 1,000 years of experience, Mob has raw power and abilities that directly counter her entire magic system. In his berserk state, Mob functions like an endless singularity, absorbing energy from his surroundings and even from his opponents. Since Freyrin's attacks are made of pure mana, Mob could simply absorb them, turning her entire offensive arsenal useless. And it doesn't stop there. Freyrin's barriers do have limits. They can be broken by enough physical or telekinetic force, meaning Mob's sheer power could shatter her defenses instantly. So with that said, Mob also advances to the next round. Next up, Deku versus Gon. While Gon's adult form gives him power comparable to the Chimera and King, Deku operates at speeds and destructive levels that completely eclipse the entire Hunter x Hunter verse. In terms of raw force, Deku's attacks can shift weather patterns and part storm clouds across an entire island, even a whole country. Meanwhile, adult Gon's Junkin only destroyed a large forest area, which is a town-level feat. This is nothing compared to Deku's continental-level striking power, which rivals Prime All Might's ability to level cities. And on top of that, Deku's additional quirks, like Float and Black Whip, give him far more versatility and mobility in battle. So with all that considered, Deku wins this one and moves on to the second round. Now we have Thorfinn versus Sakamoto. While Thorfinn is a prodigious warrior, capable of defeating opponents twice his size through speed and precision, he's still bound by realistic human limits. Taro Sakamoto, on the other hand, operates on a superhuman level. I'll give you just one example, and honestly, you can imagine the rest. Sakamoto has caught bullets with chopsticks. Meanwhile, Thorfinn struggles against arrows. To someone who treats bullets as slow, Thorfinn would look practically frozen. So if you ask me, Sakamoto moves on to the next round. Next up, Natsu versus Meliodas. Now this is a battle between a dragon slayer and the dragon sin of wrath. While Natsu is a powerhouse in his own verse, Meliodas in his true demon form is an entirely different being. In this state, Meliodas became so overwhelmingly powerful that the mortal world could no longer contain his existence. And here's the biggest issue for Natsu: his strongest attacks are all magic, which instantly triggers Meliodas' signature ability, Full Counter. This reflects any magic-based attack back at the user with double the power. Natsu can eat fire, sure, but he cannot consume his own fire, so a reflected, amplified version of his own flames would be beyond his limits and potentially fatal. On top of that, Meliodas possesses regeneration, giving him even more advantage in a prolonged fight. So with all that, Meliodas wins this one and advances to the next round. Now we have Luffy versus Okarun. Well, to be honest, there's nothing to debate here. Okarun's best feat is hitting around 100 kilometers an hour, while Luffy has long surpassed that. He's blitzed characters like Kizaru, who can turn into and move at the literal speed of light. There's really nothing more that needs explaining. Luffy wins this one and moves on to the second round. And finally, we have the last battle of the prelims, and that is between Goku versus Edward. Again, there's really nothing to explain here. Edward's alchemy simply can't harm Goku. Edward is at best a city-level threat, and honestly, not to be rude, but Goku could defeat him in just his base form without even breaking a sweat. Goku advances to the next round. With that said, the prelims are officially over, and now it's time for round 2, starting with our first matchup, Goku versus Luffy. Okay, so here, Goku steps up with Ultra Instinct, while Luffy enters with his Gear 5 form. But if you ask me, the deciding factor here is the massive gap between planetary and multiversal power. Luffy's strongest attack, Bajrang Gun, can destroy an island or maybe a small continent. In contrast, Goku's clashes with Beerus were strong enough to threaten the destruction of Universe 7 itself. Luffy simply cannot damage a being with universal level durability. That means Goku moves on to the third round. Next up, Meliodas versus Sakamoto. As I mentioned earlier, Meliodas in his true demon form becomes so overwhelmingly powerful that the mortal world can't even contain his existence. Sakamoto, while at the peak of human limits and basically a superhuman in his own verse, is nowhere close to Meliodas' level. So, Meliodas wins and moves on to the third round. Now we have Mob versus Deku. The main deciding factor here is that Deku's attacks are purely physical, while Mob's psychic barriers are extremely resistant, if not outright immune, to non-psychic force. Deku would likely hurt himself trying to break through Mob's defenses long before he ever managed to crack them. On top of that, Mob can simply use telekinesis to lift Deku into the air and crush him effortlessly. And in his Berserk mode, Mob's raw power far exceeds anything Deku can output. So, Mob wins this one and moves on to the next round. Next up, Saitama versus Dio Brando. Dio's time-stopping ability is cool, no doubt, but against Saitama, it just doesn't matter. Even if time halted, Dio can't scratch Saitama, while a single casual punch from Saitama would send Dio flying, meaning Saitama moves on to the third round. Next up, Anos versus Eren. Again, again, there's really nothing to explain here. Anos can literally rewrite the laws of reality themselves. No matter what Eren throws at him, even tens or thousands of colossal titans, it wouldn't make any difference. Anos wins this round and moves on to the next. Now we have Asta versus Rimuru. While Asta's anti-magic is a direct counter to magic, and Rimuru's attacks do rely on mana, it's reasonable to assume Asta could nullify some of Rimuru's abilities. But defeating Rimuru? That's a completely different story. Many of Rimuru's most broken abilities are classified as skills, not traditional magic. Asta's anti-magic primarily nullifies magic, meaning a huge portion of Rimuru's toolkit would still work perfectly fine. And then there's the power gap, which is absolutely astronomical. We're comparing a planetary level character to someone who is multiversal or even outerversal. So Rimuru wins this one and moves on. Next up, Ichigo versus Gojo. Now, the only thing that really matters here is, can Ichigo bypass Gojo's infinity? And if you ask me, yes, he can. In Bleach, sufficiently high Ryatsu can outright negate an opponent's abilities, as shown when Aizen casually nullified Soifon's instant death ability. Ichigo, who scales to universal levels by matching your watch, has energy on a scale infinitely beyond Gojo's. Additionally, Ichigo's attacks are capable of warping space itself. Since infinity works by manipulating space between Gojo and his opponent, a space-distorting or space-breaking attack would render the barrier useless, meaning Ichigo wins this one and moves on. And finally, we have the last battle of round 2 between Jinwoo versus Johan. Do you really think we need to explain this one? I'm sure Johan will put up a great fight, right up until he becomes the most polite shadow soldier in the army. Jinwoo wins and moves on to the next round. Okay, time for round 3, and things are about to get crazy now. And if you still haven't subscribed to our channel, what are you waiting for? Come on, click it. First up, Jinwoo versus Ichigo. Okay, so Ichigo is incredibly strong, as I mentioned earlier, but when you put him against Jinwoo, yeah, this fight is not in Ichigo's favor. You see, Jinwoo cannot be killed through physical means because he exists as a concept, not just a physical being. And just to be clear, we're using end of manhwa Jinwoo here. Ichigo, while insanely durable, simply cannot permanently kill an immortal entity who literally controls the afterlife. Speaking of the afterlife, don't forget Jinwoo also has his shadow army, over 10 million soldiers who regenerate infinitely and are absurdly strong. And before anyone says, but it's a 1v1, yes, it is a 1v1, but we're taking every character at their absolute peak. This is Jinwoo's actual ability set. Nerfing him wouldn't make sense. So unfortunately for Ichigo, the fight doesn't go his way. Next up, Rimuru versus Anos. Now this is a battle of gods beyond gods. Both are designed to be completely unstoppable in their own universes. Anos destroys concepts, while Rimuru exists outside those concepts entirely, even absorbing and transcending them. It's the ultimate paradox matchup. To be honest, it's incredibly hard to say who would definitively win because both are absurdly powerful. But personally, I feel like Rimuru takes this one due to his unique and versatile skill set. But yeah, this one is totally debatable. I'm going with Rimuru, but let me know who you think would win, Rimuru or Anos. Now we have Mob versus Saitama. Now, for those who don't know, both series are created by the same author, One. But even with that connection, Saitama operates on a level of broken physics that completely outclasses Mob, even in his berserk state. In the One Punch Man universe, it's shown that psychic abilities fail against opponents with overwhelming willpower or sheer physical density. Tatsumaki, whose psychic feats rival Mob's, couldn't even lift Saitama because he was too heavy, both spiritually and physically, meaning Saitama wins this one and moves on to the semifinals. Lastly in this round, we have Goku versus Meliodas. Okay, no need to drag this one out. I already mentioned that Meliodas, in his true magic form, wields power so immense that his very presence threatens to destroy the mortal world, essentially a planetary level threat, while Goku operates on a multiversal scale. The gap between their power levels is simply far too massive, meaning Goku moves on to the next round. With that said, we are finally in the semi-finals, where we have two massive battles, Goku versus Saitama and Jinwoo versus Rimuru. Whoever wins these matchups will compete for the top spot in the grand final. So, if you've got predictions, this is the perfect time to drop them in the comments. Let's start with Goku versus Saitama first. Well, this one is easily one of the most debated battles of all time. While Saitama has shown exponential growth and the power to destroy star clusters, Goku in Ultra Instinct operates on a multiversal scale that statistically eclipses Saitama's current peak. Saitama's greatest feat, the Serious Punch squared against Cosmic Garo, blasted a hole through the stars, destroying a multi-solar system, or arguably even a galaxy. However, Goku, even in his weaker Super Saiyan God form, clashed with Beerus with enough force to threaten the destruction of Universe 7, a macrocosm containing multiple infinite-sized dimensions, like heaven, hell, and the living world. So if you ask me, I'd go with Goku. Next up, Jinwoo versus Rimuru. Okay, so with Jinwoo, we also have his 10 million Shadow Soldiers, but can Rimuru take them all on? Well, absolutely yes. While Jinwoo fights outer gods who threaten universes, Rimuru possesses the raw power to create or erase an entire multiverse instantly. Jinwoo's army of 10 million shadows becomes irrelevant against an attack that can wipe out all of existence in a single move. Rimuru could even create a law that states souls cannot be extracted. This would completely neutralize Jinwoo's core authority. And for Jinwoo's immortality, Rimuru can counter that too. He could trap Jinwoo inside a pocket dimension and set its rules to immortal beings will die. That alone would completely negate Jinwoo's immortality, meaning Rimuru moves on to the next round. And finally, it's time for the grand finale between Goku and Rimuru. And whoever wins this battle will be the champion of the entire tournament. Now, Rimuru's abilities act as a hard counter to Goku's fighting style. Goku relies on physical strikes and ki blasts, while Rimuru has physical attack nullification and energy absorption. This means Rimuru can literally consume Goku's Kamehameha and use it to boost his own power. On top of that, Goku's peak power reaches the multiversal level, but Rimuru, he possesses enough energy to recreate the entire multiverse tens of thousands of times over. The difference between destroying a universe and creating thousands of them is an infinite gap. So the winner of this entire tournament is none other than Rimuru Tempest. Goku takes second place and Jinwoo finishes in third. Click on this video next, where we made the most villainous crew in the entire anime history. Go on, check it out.